Hey y'all, Big Tim here. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Old School Bass with Big Tim. I get a lot of people asking me, man, how can I become a better angler? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Spend more time on the water. Spend more time fishing. But a lot of people can't do that. They've got family obligations and kids and, work obligations and stuff like that. So it really inhibits the amount of time that we're able to spend on the water. So here's a couple ideas that you can use to shorten that learning curve. One of the first things that you can do is join a club and go as a co-angler. You can enter some tournaments, go as a co-angler. Most of the time the anglers have a little bit more time and they can spend finding fish. You can learn, let's face it, two heads are better than one. So you can learn a lot quicker with somebody else. There's several opportunities to do that. You can go as, you can enter the Bass Nation or the Bass Federation. You can also look at the BFL circuit. That's another good one, fairly inexpensive, about $100 entry fee for a co-angler. Or if you've got a little bit more money and you want to, go out with some AAA level pros, you could look at the, they used to call it the Costa Series. Now I think it's called the Toyota Series from FLW. Or you could look at the Bassmaster Opens. Of course, those tournament circuits are a little bit more costly. The lower end would be the Bass Nation and Bass Federation. You're looking at about a $50 to $75 entry fee there. So you can work your way up. That's one great way to become a better fisherman. Another awesome idea, and I was a little disappointed about this at first because I wanted to put this video out before the Bass Elite Series went down to Chickamauga. But Chickamauga got canceled, or I should say postponed. So there's still an opportunity for those of us to live, in Kentucky or northern Kentucky to be a marshal for the Elite Series at Chickamauga. I know that we don't have the top name pros in the Elite Series anymore. The Van Dams, Jason Christie's, guys like that are not there anymore. But let me tell you, the guys in the Elite Series are pretty good fishermen. You're still going to learn a ton from them. And Chickamauga is probably our closest opportunity. There may be a couple other opportunities up north later in the season. But Chickamauga coming up mid-March is going to be a good opportunity. And Bass is generally almost always looking for more marshals. Yes, it does cost you. I think it's like $100, but I marshaled twice. And both times I spent my $100. I got 50 back each time in Bass Pro gift cards. So it cost me $50. Then I got hat and shirt. Okay, let's call that another 30. So really and truly it cost me $20 to go marshal for the Elite Series. I marshaled at Kentucky Lake and I marshaled at Guntersville. And each time I marshaled for 3 days. And I learned so much in those 6 days, so much more than I would have learned in a month fishing by myself. Not only did I learn the lake and how to get around, I learned different fishing spots. I learned different techniques. I learned a lot of the what and why. I learned a lot of philosophy. Fishing is a very philosophical sport. Don't let anybody kid you. There's a lot that goes on up here that makes fishing what it is. And you can learn a lot of that from these pros. Trust me. FLW has a marshal program. Bassmaster Elite Series has a marshal program. And it's fairly inexpensive for what you learn. Now, what would really make it cool is if Bass gave you a discount on lodging and everything else, if FLW gave you a discount on lodging, so it could make it a little less costly. But trust me, you'll learn more if you go for 3 days, even if you just go for 2 days. I think you have to do a 2-day minimum, I think. But even if you go for 2 days, you'll learn so much more in those 2 days that you're in the boat with this guy and not concentrating on your own rod, waiting for your own bite. You can learn so much more when you're not worrying about catching fish yourself. One of the trips that I marshaled was with Denny Brower in Guntersville. And that was just such a dream. He treated me like I was his son's best friend. He treated me like I've known him for years. Just a super, super great guy. And I had such a blast with him. At some points, I was watching his rod tip to see if I can detect the bites before he did. And it was just a blast. And like I said, I learned so much from all the guys I went with. It's definitely worth the effort. You will become a better fisherman just from that. Trust me. So one of the other ways that you can become a better fisherman, well, you're doing it right now. You're watching my channel on YouTube, Old School and Bass Big Tim. We're trying to help you become a better fisherman. There's a lot of other guys out there that have YouTube channels that are helping you become a better fisherman. You have to listen to the information. Sometimes you have to read between the lines to hear what's being said. You know, you don't want to concentrate, particularly when a guy is sponsored. You know, you don't want to listen to, just endless sales pitch after sales pitch. But you can consider the types of baits that they're talking about, or locations or whatever else. But watching YouTube, another great way. Reading Bassmaster Magazine. I know that's a thing of the past. Magazines are on the way out. But man, I tell you what, the learning curve, the things that I think are basic information that every angler in the world knows, I get asked almost on a daily basis. And all these guys had to do was open up their Bassmaster and read it. You know, I'm amazed that, some of the information that I think, like I said, some of the information that I think is everyday common knowledge that every 10-year-old kid knows. A lot of guys don't know because they're not reading their magazine. They're looking for too quick of an approach. And if you read your magazines and you pay attention, you actually study it, you'll be a better angler than most of the guys out there because they don't. They don't want to take the time to read. So reading, watching YouTube, listening to people, listen to some old timers. Some guys, and you have to weed it out. You have to learn who you can listen to and who you can't. If a guy comes to you and tells you that this is the best lure ever made, dismiss him, because there's no such thing as the best lure ever made. The best lure ever made is the one that's catching fish right now. That's the best lure. And that changes every day. That changes every hour. So that being said, you have to be selective on who you listen to. But having a good, old timer like me, there's a lot of guys out there that are willing to take you under the wing, give you some advice, give you some tips. There's a guy here, I'm not going to mention his name, but I call him the King of the River. If you've ever talked to me in the store, you know who I call the King of the River. This man has given me so much information. He'll take me under his arm. I think I might be taller than he is now, but he'll still somehow finagle his arm around me and walk away from the crowd because he doesn't want everybody to hear this information. But he'll take you aside and kind of tell you what he was doing, especially if you're struggling, and give you some tidbits. To me, that's what I think bass clubs are supposed to be for. But a lot of times in bass clubs anymore, they're getting so competitive that nobody wants to help anybody else. That's one of the things I'm really saddened by. There's some really good clubs out there. They lose a lot of new members because these guys come in wanting to learn. And it's so competitive that nobody wants to really help them out. I've been pretty fortunate. I've had a ton of teachers, a ton of different guys that have taught me a lot. I still have guys that are teaching me today. I'm in my 50s, and I've got a couple of guys that are just 10 or 15 years older than me that are still teaching me things. There's guys that are 25 and 30 years older than me that are definitely teaching me things. But I'm also learning things from some of the young cats out there. Some of these young guys out there are incredible, some of the new techniques that they have. So you have to be willing to adapt. And I know as we get older, it is harder to adapt. It's hard to change. That old dog, new tricks thing. It's true. I'm the old dog. I don't like new tricks. I had a guy come into work the other day and ask me what rod I drop shot with. And I said, what's drop shot? I mean, he knew I was teasing, but I don't drop shot, And I'd like to think that hopefully this year I can get more into that. Honestly, no, I don't. I hope that I don't have to get in a position where I have to learn to drop shot. But there are times where they'll eat that drop shot better than anything I'm throwing. And I need to take that into consideration. So anyway, that's going to sum it up for today. There are some really good ideas to think about as far as how to make yourself a better fisherman. And if you don't have the opportunity to join a club or to get involved in the nation or federation or the BFL or anything else like that, or you don't have the opportunity to go marshal, the only thing I can tell you is go spend more time fishing. And if you've got family obligations or whatever else, maybe consider involving the family in. You know, take your wife fishing, take your kids fishing. Please take your kids fishing. You know, that very important, very, very important. I don't have any kids, but if I did, they would be fishing with me all the time. That's why I take a lot of the younger guys at work. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you the next time on Old School and Bass with Big Tim.